So thank you. I'm going to introduce just momentarily our panel. So this is a great time for everyone to hop into the Q&A and ask questions about relationships while I introduce Caitlin, Haley, and Sam. They're all experts as people living with a sleep disorder and are in the advocacy space. So these are dear friends that my team and I have worked with over the last few years. So we're super excited and grateful that they're able to share and make themselves vulnerable. Actually, this is not an easy topic necessarily, but it's a really important one. So I'm going to start with Caitlin, who identifies as she, her, a 35-year-old woman from coastal Virginia. She was diagnosed with IH at 31 years old, though her symptoms likely started in her mid-20s. Once the promising military pediatric resident and a self-described high achiever, Caitlin now thrives in her own way as a veteran and stay-at-home cat mom. Through acceptance and commitment therapy, she's embraced her IH brain and feels grateful for the non-traditional life that she now leads. And if you haven't met Caitlin before, we've done a couple of interviews on the Living With series, and they're really mind-blowing and really pushing boundaries, looking at different types of therapy, particularly acceptance and commitment. I really recommend that. Okay, I'm going to move on to Haley, who is an occupational therapist and dedicated patient advocate for individuals with IH. Haley uses her personal experience to raise awareness about this under-recognized sleep disorder and has been featured in various podcasts and been a guest speaker at Beyond Sleepy conferences, also featured in articles, contributed to continuing medical education courses, and featured in a mini documentary. She shares her story with Project Sleep's Rising Voices program and has her own social media platform known as the Sleepy OT, where she shares her life with IH. And Haley, it's just lovely to see, always lovely to see you, and thank you for everything that you to kind of dedicate in terms of time and expertise to our community. But last and not least is Sam Bell. He is a colourful creative who's lived his life with idiopathic hypersomnia. And when Sam isn't sleeping or working, you can find him streaming under the username Couchcruisers or relaxing at Coronado Beach. And currently Sam lives in San Diego with his partner Vic and their guinea pig. What's your guinea pig called, Sam? You left that off the bio.
Princess Perry, very important.
It is an important detail. All right, I'm going to open this panel up for Q&A and do my best to manage questions. And while they come in, I would really, I'm perhaps going to turn it over to Caitlin, who's very passionate about raising awareness, but from an individual perspective that is kind of rooted in empowerment. That's a bit of an umbrella term, but Caitlin, maybe you can kick us off with some of the things that you're particularly passionate about.
Awesome. Thanks, Claire. Yeah, so since this is a webinar or specifically a panel on social relationships, I think some things that I can talk to specifically, since being diagnosed with IH, I have navigated the dating space as an adult, and I live independently. And I think those are things that I can comment on. And then just from the advocacy that Claire was talking about, I feel that I've learned to navigate what I grew up with, which was oversharing and just sharing in a family where it was sort of expected to share about yourself. And that mindset where I thought oversharing meant connection and oversharing was vulnerability. But ultimately, I've learned to navigate what boundary setting is. And that's really helped me now that I have IH and what especially being on sodium oxybate therapy means for staying safe in the dating and intimacy space. When it comes to divulging very personal information about myself and understanding what oversharing means versus what actual vulnerability means. So those are some things that I'm pretty passionate about.
Sam, I noticed you nodding your head, and maybe it's best if you kind of jump in there a little bit rather than me.
Oh, I was just agreeing because yeah, the dating space can be a tricky spot to be in, and making sure that you don't uh overshare is important, especially, with some of our stronger medications. Uh I've tried to stay aware of that.
Are you both talking about oversharing what medication you're on? Presumably we're talking about the oxybate therapy world, and that being a nighttime drug. Is that what you're referring to?
There is that aspect of it, the fact that you're on such a strong sedative, but then also the availability of stimulants. Like we take recreationally consumed drugs, and depending on who you invite into your home, into your space, being cautious on dating apps, being cautious about who you invite over, the pace with which you invite over. Media these days um, make it seem like you invite someone over to your house super quickly and you just get familiar very quickly. But no, just being aware that there's options out there, and that taking into account your safety in the dating space and who you invite over, who you disclose your personal information to, how discreet you are with when you're getting ready in front of someone, especially if you're not fully trusting of how they're going to protect your space, who you invite into your space, etc. Those are things that I had to learn over time. And I had the opportunity to learn some of those things before I ever were on these meds. But I've I'm now in a position where I am more empowered and more confident, and so I am very much an advocate for explaining, or like advocating for how to be someone dating, living independently, having these medications available, and how to navigate like this space as like a non-drinker, as someone who has these meds, all of that.
Mhm. We do have a couple of questions. I have one. I'll probably come back to it because this is really wanting to give people time with you guys. So, first question here today: have your friends and family become accepting of varied energy levels and lifestyle? Would you contribute that to communication, to pre-existing patience and compassion, or to the other attributes? And if you can see the Q&A, guys, that's written in there. Which of you might be best to take that question?
I mean, I think all of us, but Haley, do you want to go first?
Sure, yeah, I can touch quickly. I will preface and say that I was 18 when I was diagnosed. I was a freshman in college. I didn't learn very much about what IH was. I had never heard of it prior to my diagnosis either. So I did not explain to my family and friends what it was that I had very well. And that is something that I've had to learn how to communicate in terms of how the symptoms affect how I'm engaging in my life, how I'm functioning. And all of my family members, thankfully, have been so gracious and accepting. And, I do have quite a medically complex family. So I do think that plays a role. Um, in terms of my friends, I have definitely lost some friends due to limitations or not being able to do certain things. But I do have a really solid couple of friends that completely understand. And if I'm not able to do something, then either we don't, or we modify that activity to suit my needs. So I'm very, very grateful to be able to have those types of friendships in my life, and have a family that is accepting and understanding. But I do recognize that's not everybody's experience, um, when it comes to navigating life with limitations from my age.
Helpful. Sam, you're muted. Do you want to say something there?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I feel like with friendships and even dating, a lot of it, it sucks, but it is a little luck attributed. Communication so important, but a lot of those friendships do take time as well. So like I just moved to San Diego recently, and I'm currently making new friends. Luckily, I'm living here with my partner and my best friend, so I have that structure. But like we're recently making friends with the upstairs neighbors, and I take my time when it comes to like bringing up my sleep disorder and just pace myself when it comes to like going out, and it just takes a bit of time and a bit of luck to find the best people, but I believe that they're out there.
I love that optimism.
I agree that communication is so important, but also finding the language that you have conviction in order to have that like self-acceptance. That was really paramount for me, which came with understanding not just my IH, but my other conditions and myself. And so when I was getting um, diagnosed, it made a lot of sense to me. But I do think just the way my nature, the way I am in my family, um, there that's been a big part of my acceptance and commitment therapy has been navigating the way my family shows up for me is not necessarily as supportive as I wish it were. And so finding authentic, supportive relationships have really come from my friends and the family that I've created. And those relationships have come to understand my energy levels, especially during the day, and finding a language to communicate around it, which I use spoon theory. And so being able to say, like, hey, this is how I'm feeling today, this is what I'm up for, and receiving them when they don't have the energy for it because like they have their kids or they have this and whatever, and just being able to receive each other authentically has been really important in my relationships.
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned spoon theory because that's sort of still really powerful. And I don't think it's been improved upon even in the last 10 years. But for those who've never heard of that are tuning in today, if you just Google, look up spoon theory online, you'll get a really good sense of what that means. And we've touched on that in various kind of conversations that are also recorded. Okay, so I have another question here. I'm just going to read it out. I'm a student. I have had issues with classmates getting frustrated by my restricting my availability or leaving events early in order to keep a consistent sleep schedule and manage my medication timings, especially so since I don't want to disclose the details of my medication process to those I'm not really close to. Do you have any recommendations for how to handle these types of frustrations with classmates or other general peers? It's a great question. Sam, do you want to start with that?
It's a bit of a bummer for me, but I have been in situations where I just kind of have to brush off like the external, especially with work, because I've been in workspaces where like I tell my manager what's going on, but I don't want to talk to all my coworkers about it because I don't know, that's just not what I want to do. But like even just constant yawning. There's always going to be somebody in the office that's like, "Oh, you can't be yawning so early in the day. We're just starting the shift." And I'm like, I'm always going to be yawning. But a lot of that just, I feel like it's so important to have like healthy spaces outside of work. And then that makes it easier to navigate that workplace, like, I don't know, shenanigans. Um,
Mhm.
but a lot of it is just they're gonna be like that.
Um, I think the um, frustration is very real, and I appreciate you sharing that. And for me, I think it helped to have some practice phrases. So I would like think of that scenario and be like, okay, so if they come at me with frustration or a phrase that I'm familiar with, what am I going to say in reply? And so I would come up with my response ahead of time and practice it so that I had conviction and it aligned with my values and I didn't have to disclose it. So it would be something like, yeah, I find sleep hygiene really important and it's really important for me and I feel my best. And I know you feel frustrated. Thanks for telling me, but I really need to feel my best. And just something that is practice that you have conviction around and very valid that you as like an empath might feel their frustration, but know that you're taking care of yourself and you're doing the right thing.
That's helpful having those phrases ready to go. Hayley, have you got any comments there?
I think, one of the most helpful things for me when I was in grad school, specifically doing like big group types of projects, was um, I did feel comfortable confiding in one of those group mates who ended up becoming, one of my closest friends that still is to this day. And, she was aware and kind of helped me work through that if I was in a situation where I was like, well, I don't know how else, to show up because this is the best I can right now. But I found just communicating, is there how would you what's something I can do that can help you feel less frustrated with me right now? That's more realistic. And if it isn't realistic, trying to help set those expectations to an achievable level. But it's hard. I mean, there's not going to be a right or wrong answer for how to navigate these situations, but doing what feels best for you, if that's confiding in one person or having those specific phrases, I think, go based on what feels good for you.
Thank you. All right, quite a lot of comments and questions, so let's see what we can do here. So Stephanie says, I've received really supportive work accommodations, but it means I don't show up with everyone else and I have to be okay with no being as present or interactive as I'd like to be. Here's the question. How do you navigate cancelling plans due to tiredness and dealing with opinions about midday naps, etc.? Who wants to take that?
From my perspective, it sort of goes back to what aligns with my values and sort of stomaching, like, yes, other people are going to have their opinions. People are going to like Sam said, like people are going to sometimes be assholes. They're going to make comments. They're going to roll to the beat of their own drum and make assumptions about you because they don't have all the information and they're just going to be jerks. But the fact that you are taking steps to take care of yourself, you advocated to get the accommodations that you need, that is better than a lot of people get. And so I'm proud of you for that. Like, that's awesome. So the fact that you are honoring your needs, you're like taking care of yourself so that you can drive home safely, like thinking about the fact that you are doing these things hopefully will remind yourself, like having conviction in your authenticity and your values, and that the naysayers are going to be naysayers probably because they're jealous or they don't understand or they're ignorant, all the things. And so hopefully just reminding yourself that you're taking care of yourself so that you can drive home safely and that you can like and be proud of yourself for getting the accommodations that you deserve.
Absolutely.
The other thing is, with IH, we already have like limited energy. So even though it's really difficult and it's against the human condition, it's important not to give too much of your energy away to people that don't really think about it, you know? If you're going to take a break, unless you're sharing a break room, then like you don't have to tell them you're napping. You can just be like, I'm going on my break, you know? If you do share a break room, which I've done before, and I've had to take naps in a break room, I usually just deflect a little bit with humor. That's what works for me. It doesn't have to be what you do, but a lot of the time I'll say something like, "Oh, wait till you have guinea pigs, then you'll know what tired is." Uh, but it's just let it go a little bit if you can, and try your best. And the spoons, we don't have that many spoons.
Okay. Haley, any comments there?
Yeah, I think it's important to know IH is so sporadic. There can be good days, there can be bad days. And, most of the time we can live in the limbo of, I don't know what kind of day it's going to be. Even an hour from now, there are going to be, it's inevitable that plans likely at one point will have to be canceled because we have to protect our well-being, our mental health, and just our overall bodily safety. What I found really helpful navigating newer friendships, especially in, my later 20s, is telling my friend, I don't actually do that well at this time of day. Or, if that's when you really want to hang out, do you think you want to come over to my house? Or I'll offer to, like, I'll have friends coming over for Thanksgiving because I know I'm in my own space. And if I have to go into my room for a few minutes, then I can do that without any shame, or embarrassment of like having to sit in the bathroom at somebody else's house for a few minutes just to be able to give myself some time. So if that's something you're capable of or able to do, that's something that's been really helpful to me is just being able to accommodate around the times that I do best. So I still can have those social experiences and fill my own cup. So I'm not, isolating myself. But there definitely are times that I do have to miss things and it's a bummer. But um, typically the people that have my best intentions at heart aren't giving me a hard time about it. So
this is somewhat related because Taylor asked, how do you approach sharing quality time when sleepiness is a challenge? Do you have favorite low energy activities with partners or friends? Great question.
I definitely I have quite a few low energy activities even just for like self-care and personal leisure. Um, I have started doing like craft nights with one of my friends that I've just, developed a stronger relationship with out here. We've done scrapbooking and, it's a little bit more challenging to find lower energy activities during the weekday, especially with my husband. Most of the time that is either just like a conversation on the couch or making dinner together and then watching a show. And, that's kind of the extent of it. But I found having like-minded or people that share a lot of the same passions and leisure hobbies interests, it's fun to be able to do those things. I just started picking up embroidery and cross stitching, so that's something that I do personally by myself, but also I'm trying to convince my husband to maybe try it out, even though it may not be totally up his alley, but just trying to spread the horizons, spread our interests, and see what we can do.
Awesome. Any low energy interests for you, Sam or Caitlin?
I love board game nights.
Oh yeah, awesome.
Yeah, board games and card games are really nice. And then for friends that live farther away, because I have some friends that live like in other states or out of country, I started doing like a movie club, which is pretty much just like a book club, but for movies. So we watch specific movies and then we all get together and we just talk about them. And I think that's
It's pretty
pretty
cool.
easy.
It's great. Caitlin?
My low energy things are I put a privacy film on my storm door so that I can open it and just lay in front of it when the sun's out. And it's really nice. And I'll just get some, if I don't feel like I'm up for walking out in the sun, I'll still get sunshine and just sit or lay in front of the privacy film storm door so that I get some sunshine. And
Awesome.
that's pretty low energy. Or like my friends, a lot of my friends have kids, and I'll join them at the kids' t-ball game or something so I can just sit and be like with my friend doing something low energy. Or like my friends will have a soccer practice and like we'll either sit if I'm low energy, or if I'm feeling okay enough, we'll walk around the perimeter of the soccer field. So like we're too busy to get a meal, but we can do something while they're doing something.
It's really cool. Okay, probably only time for two more. I love this question. Do you find and appreciate personal achievements in a different way since having IH? I think that's a great question. Like life, how has life shifted and how do you appreciate it in a new way?
Before IH, I don't think
I love it.
before IH, I don't think I celebrated doing chores. Since IH, I find doing chores definitely a victory. Like those are little things of productivity through my day that are like gold stars. Like I unloaded the dishwasher. Yes. I folded my laundry. Yes. And that's something I definitely took for granted before IH.
Wonderful. Haley?
I completely agree. You know, I don't really remember life much before I started experiencing my IH symptoms. But it's something as a chronic overachiever and, you know, always ready for the next thing, I've had to come to the realization that, you know, these smaller things are just as important, and it's okay to take a step back and really appreciate life as it is. If I get my chores done, I get my chores done. If I don't, I don't. You know, something that's really helped me is my dog too. He has instilled the like taking a step back, taking it slow, because I do find myself trying to rush through things because I have such limited energy and I want to be able to get it done. And um he and I say this as a joke, but also not, but he like will make me stop and smell the roses because when I'm out walking him, he's, you know, smelling everything and it's just making me go slower. But I definitely have found myself having to restructure that piece in my brain of, okay, that was an achievement, regardless of how small, you know, it's perceived by me or somebody else, it's still an achievement.
Awesome. Sam?
You know, I think that the small victories are sweeter than they used to be just because I didn't know, but it also means that the large victories are like even more momentous, you know, like I've been trying to plan like this specific move I've done for months, you know, and I planned it with my whole thing in mind. So I took extra time to pack and I took extra time to apartment shop and you know, it's just nice. It's nice to know and it's nice to feel more gratitude for the small and big victories. I love that.
It's huge. Okay, last question. It's difficult because there's so many. And if anyone in the audience feels, you know, we've not really addressed really key issues for them, then you can email us, email me. All of our team here, our emails are on the website, but I am Claire at Hypersomnia Foundation. But let's try and do one more. Okay. Have you found ways to simplify routines and decisions in order to match energy levels and not feel as guilty? That's from Jessica. Guilt and shame is the theme, underlying theme there. Let's talk about that for a hot minute.
Um, Haley tapped into it a little bit, and this does not work for everyone, but for me, having a pet helps sync my schedule so much with my partner because you know somebody always has to be around and ready to help that. And sometimes I'll be like super nappy and I have to get up to feed her, and that's been helpful. But when it comes to no pets or anything like that, just communication, you just have to sync up and make compromises, which is hard to do, but it is important.
Yeah, pets help. Haley, you can speak to that, right? Pets.
yes, pets definitely help. And again, that's not for everybody. I understand it's a big responsibility. So I'm not saying go out and get a pet if that's not where you're at in life. It just was a huge blessing for me. I'll also touch on I I am an occupational therapist as well. So I have the knowledge and education of helping other people restructure their routines, habits, roles in a way that's going to best suit them to be able to participate and function as their best self. So I have found, setting up a morning routine that is the exact same every single day so that I'm not cognitively having to think, okay, what do I have to do next? What do I have to do next? Because it's become just a habit of continuing to do that over and over and over. I found meal prepping my breakfasts on Sundays so that every day of the week they're covered. I have awful, awful sleep inertia, and it's really tough to be able to, meal prep something or cook something for myself for breakfast. So being able to just grab something from the fridge that's already ready has been huge in helping make sure that I'm eating and following routines and staying healthy. Um, and then just prepping as much as I can the day prior for the next day, or modifying my own expectations of how to approach a task. It doesn't have to be done a specific way. If I can get my laundry done, but I cannot fold it, it's not folding. It's not getting folded that day. So just giving yourself as much grace as you can. It's not a shameful thing that you can't do absolutely everything. We have limited energy, and we need to be able to expend it on our necessities while also prioritizing our mental health. So just finding what works for you, what's going to be the best supports for you. And again, I do have a little bit of a different take with my educational background, but I think you know yourself best, so being able to kind of really sit down and think about those things.
It's super helpful. Caitlin, anything to add there?
I think that's awesome. And for me, meal prepping doesn't work. I just have a different, I think, relationship to food. And I sort of have to be able to grab and go a little differently. So meal prepping is not something that works for me, but over time, something that has worked for me are sort of life hacks. I feel like we find workarounds and we find life hacks. And so something that has been particularly hard for me is like cleaning and even brushing my teeth. I used to be able to brush my teeth no problem and I was good to go. But now brushing my teeth costs spoons. And so I have found that I keep Listerine strips or mouthwash and different things that so that I don't have to feel embarrassed that my breath stinks if I leave the house. I have like the on-the-go toothbrushes in the car. And so I keep little things around that help me with the fact that sometimes I leave the house not brushed my teeth in the morning. Or the fact that every bathroom in the house has one of the toilet Clorox wands so that it's easy to clean. And for me, sometimes buying extra instead of replacing it, like a little extra money for me is worth having to remember replacing it, or something like that will help me. So just some life hacks for cleaning and hygiene.
Thank you. We're actually out of time, and it's a shame really, because there's like at least another half a dozen questions, and they're all great. We will be doing more panel sessions and presentations on these topics, particularly like relationships in every direction. So when I think about that, I don't just mean at home, but also in the workplace and outside of the home, as well as our most important relationships as well. So again, that's where it's great to come into the same space in person, like Beyond Sleepy in June. We'll definitely have a lot of opportunity to really do a deeper dive into some of these questions. But with that, I'm really grateful for this panel of experts here. Just their vulnerability and willingness to give up their time and their expertise, but also it is not always easy to talk about these things, but it is really, really crucial. You know, as an organization, we get a lot of questions about treatment. You can see from the other presentations today, but I would say some of the greatest and unmet needs are on these topics that we've just started to touch on today. So a huge thanks to Sam and Hayley and Caitlin for making yourselves available here today, and we'll certainly take these thoughts and ideas forwards into our programming next year.